I always imagined my wedding day would be perfect. Instead, I watched it implode in spectacular fashion as my future mother-in-law grabbed the microphone during our ceremony, her face twisted with disgust. My name is Nancy, and this is the story of how my wedding became ground zero for the most humiliating moment of my life, and ultimately, the catalyst for my greatest triumph. I object to this union, Caitlin's voice boomed through the church speakers. My son deserves better than a gold digger from the wrong side of the tracks. The collective gasp from our 200 guests seemed to suck all the oxygen from the room. Eddie, my almost husband, stood frozen beside me, his hand going slack in mine. I could feel my perfectly applied makeup starting to crack along with my composure. "Mother, please," Eddie whispered, but his protest was drowned out by his sister Kylie, who'd apparently been waiting for her cue. "Everyone needs to know the truth about Nancy," Kylie announced, strutting down the aisle in her bridesmaid dress, the one she'd insisted on altering to be more revealing than the others. "She's been manipulating Eddie since day one. I have proof." My best friend Maria stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Shut up, Kylie, this is insane." But Kylie was already waving her phone in the air. "I have screenshots of Nancy telling her friend how marrying into our family would solve all her problems, how Eddie was her meal ticket." "Those are fake," I finally found my voice, though it trembled. "Eddie, you know they're lying." Eddie turned to me, confusion clouding his features. "Nancy, is there any truth to this?" The fact that he even had to ask felt like a knife to my heart. 3 years together, countless moments of love and trust, and he was willing to doubt me because of some manufactured screenshots? "I can't believe you're even asking me that," I said, my voice growing stronger with each word. "Your mother has hated me from day one because I didn't come from money. Nothing I've done has ever been good enough for her." Caitlin's perfectly manicured hand grabbed my arm. "Don't you dare turn this around on me. I've seen right through you from the beginning." I yanked my arm free, surprising her with my force. "No, you've seen what you wanted to see. A poor girl who dared to love your son, who worked her way through college, who built a career from nothing. You're right about one thing. I'm not good enough for your family. I'm better." The church had gone deadly quiet. Even the priest looked uncomfortable, shifting from foot to foot behind his podium. "Eddie," I turned to him, my heart pounding. "This is your moment. Right here. Are you going to let them do this to us?" He looked between his mother and me, sweat beading on his forehead. I need time to think." Those 6 words sealed our fate. I nodded slowly, a strange calm washing over me. "No, you don't need time. You've made your choice. You've always chosen them." Removing my veil with steady hands, I placed it gently on the altar. Then I slipped off my engagement ring, the one Caitlin had insisted should be a family heirloom, rather than the one Eddie had originally picked out. "Congratulations, Caitlin. You've won." I placed the ring in Eddie's palm, closing his fingers around it. "But remember this moment. Remember what you did to me today. Because I promise you, this isn't the last time you'll see me." "Is that a threat?" Kylie scoffed, but I could see uncertainty flicker across her face. "No," I smiled, and for the first time that day, it was genuine. "It's a promise." I walked down that aisle with my head held high, my bridesmaids falling in step behind me like an honor guard. The whispers and stares of the guests barely registered. In that moment, something crystallized inside me. A determination harder than the diamond I'd just returned. Outside the church, Maria grabbed my hand. "Nancy, I'm so sorry. What can I do?" I took a deep breath of the summer air, feeling lighter than I had in months. "Nothing, but they're going to be sorry. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. And I'm going to make sure I'm there to see it." "What are you going to do?" I looked back at the church doors, where curious guests were starting to spill out. "I'm going to become everything they accused me of being. Successful, powerful, and absolutely unstoppable. And then I'm going to make them wish they'd never underestimated me." Little did they know, their very public rejection had just lit a fire that would eventually burn their perfect world to the ground. And I was going to enjoy every moment of watching it happen. 2 months after my wedding, I sat across from Maria at our favorite coffee shop, stirring my 3rd espresso of the day. The dark circles under my eyes betrayed my sleepless nights, but my voice was steady as I shared my news. I got an interview at Burton and Associates, I said, watching her eyes widen. The consulting firm? Wait. Maria leaned forward, lowering her voice. Isn't that where Caitlin and Kylie work? I nodded, allowing myself a small smile. Senior VP and Marketing Director, respectively, but they don't handle the hiring process for other departments. Nancy, Maria's tone carried a warning. Are you sure this is healthy? Maybe you should focus on moving on instead of... Instead of what? Pursuing a legitimate career opportunity? I pulled out my laptop, turning it to show her the job listing. Look at the requirements. MBA in business strategy, minimum 5 years experience in corporate restructuring, proven track record in process improvement. It's exactly what I've been doing for the past 6 years. Maria sighed, but looked at the screen. Project manager for strategic initiatives. Okay, I'll admit it's perfect for you. But nothing, I cut her off. I'm not going to let them take my career opportunities away, too. Besides, I closed my laptop. Eddie already signed the divorce papers. This isn't about him anymore. The bell above the cafe door chimed, and I instinctively tensed. But it wasn't any of the Burtons, just another customer seeking their morning caffeine fix. Speaking of Eddie, Maria hesitated. He called me yesterday. He wants to meet with you. My hands tightened around my coffee cup. Too late. He left his mother's house, got his own place, says he made a huge mistake. Good for him, I said flatly. But I'm not interested in being anyone's second choice. My phone buzzed, an email from Burton and Associates. My heart raced as I opened it. They want me to come in tomorrow, I announced, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. First round interview with HR, then a panel interview with the department heads. Maria reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Just promise me you'll be careful. Don't let revenge consume you. I'm not consumed by revenge, I said, standing up and gathering my things. I'm motivated by justice. The next day, I walked into Burton and Associates wearing my sharpest suit and carrying a portfolio filled with project proposals I'd spent weeks perfecting. The receptionist directed me to the 14th floor, where a woman named Valerie would be conducting my initial interview. Valerie turned out to be nothing like I expected. In her mid-30s, with a warm smile and sharp eyes, she gestured for me to sit across from her desk. Your resume is impressive, she began, but I'm more interested in hearing about your vision for this role. What would you do in your first 90 days? I pulled out my portfolio. I've analyzed your company's public financial reports and identified 3 major areas for improvement. First, your current project management system is outdated. For the next hour, I laid out my strategy. Valerie's questions were probing but fair, and I found myself genuinely enjoying our discussion. Well, she said finally, leaning back in her chair, I think we should move forward with the panel interview, but Nancy, she paused, studying me carefully. I have to ask, why Burton and Associates specifically? I met her gaze steadily. Because you're the best in the industry, and I want to work with the best. She nodded slowly. The panel will include several department heads. Are you prepared for that? Absolutely, I replied, my voice unwavering. As I stood to leave, Valerie spoke again. One more thing. I noticed you're recently divorced. We value work-life balance here. Are you sure you're ready to take on such a demanding role? I turned back to her, my smile genuine. The end of my marriage taught me something important. When life knocks you down, you have 2 choices. You can stay down, or you can get up stronger than before. I chose the latter. Valerie's expression softened. The panel interview is next Tuesday at 2 p.m., and Nancy, between you and me, I think you're exactly what this company needs. Walking out of the building, I felt lighter than I had in months. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about proving to myself and everyone else that I was capable of so much more than they'd given me credit for. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. How did it go? I typed back, Phase 1 complete. They have no idea what's coming. The game was on, and this time I was playing to win. My first day at Burton and Associates started with a series of fortunate coincidences. The elevator was under maintenance, forcing everyone to use the stairs, which meant no awkward early morning encounters with my former in-laws. I'd also been assigned to the 12th floor, 2 levels below where Caitlin and Kylie worked. "Welcome to the chaos," Valerie greeted me, leading me through a maze of cubicles. "Your office is right here. I made sure you got the one with a view." I set my laptop bag on the desk, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows. "It's perfect. When do I meet the team?" "Right now, actually. They're waiting in the conference room." Valerie paused, her hand on the door. "Just manage your expectations. This department has been struggling for a while." The conference room held 6 people, all looking various degrees of defeated. Their body language screamed, "Given up," from slumped shoulders to avoided eye contact. "Everyone, this is Nancy, our new project manager for strategic initiatives," Valerie announced. "Nancy, why don't you share your vision for the department?" I stood, smoothing my skirt. "Before I share my vision, I'd like to hear yours. What do you think this department needs?" Silence. Then a young man in the back spoke up. "A miracle?" Scattered laughter broke the tension. "I'm Tom," he continued, "and honestly, we need someone to actually listen to our ideas. The higher-ups just shoot everything down without even considering it." Others nodded in agreement. "Who usually shoots down your proposals?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. "Caitlin from senior management," a woman named Rachel replied. "She's particular about how things should be done." I kept my face neutral. "Well, I'm not interested in how things have always been done. I'm interested in what works. So here's what we're going to do." For the next hour, I outlined my plan to revitalize the department. With each point, I saw sparks of hope returning to their eyes. Later that afternoon, Valerie stopped by my office. "You've got them excited. That's no small feat." "They just needed someone to believe in them," I replied, organizing files on my computer. "By the way, how often do department heads review our proposals?" "Monthly meetings. Speaking of which," Valerie leaned against my desk, "there's one tomorrow. Caitlin always attends. Should I be concerned about that?" I met her gaze. "Why would you be?" "Because I did my homework, Nancy. I know who you are, or rather, who you almost were." My heart stopped for a moment, but I kept my composure. "And you hired me anyway?" "I hired you because you were the best candidate. But I need to know, is this going to be a problem?" I stood, walking to the window. "The only problem will be if they let personal history interfere with professional decisions. I'm here to do a job, Valerie, a job I'm very good at." She studied me for a long moment. "All right. Just remember, office politics here can be brutal. Watch your back." After she left, I pulled up the company organization chart. Caitlin's position gave her significant influence over departmental budgets and approvals. Kylie, as marketing director, controlled the narrative around company initiatives. They were perfectly positioned to block any major changes. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in." Tom poked his head in. "Hey, a bunch of us are going for drinks after work. Want to join?" "Thanks, but I should stay and prepare for tomorrow's meeting." "About that." He fully entered the office, closing the door. "Look, I don't want to overstep, but Caitlin can be pretty harsh in these meetings. Maybe let me present our first proposal? Take some of the heat off you while you're still new?" I smiled, touched by his concern. "I appreciate that, Tom. But I've dealt with harsh critics before. I can handle Caitlin." That evening I stayed late, refining our presentation. The cleaning staff had already come and gone when my phone buzzed with a text from Eddie. "Heard you're working at Burton and Associates now. We should talk." I deleted the message without responding. The past was the past. I was focused on the future now. As I gathered my things to leave, movement caught my eye through my office window. Across the street, in the building's reflection, I could see Caitlin's office light still on. Her silhouette paced back and forth, gesturing animatedly during what appeared to be a heated phone call. I watched for a moment, remembering how she'd paced similarly at my wedding, working herself up before her dramatic objection. But this time, I wasn't the nervous bride hoping for approval. This time, I was a professional with a plan. "Game on, Caitlin," I whispered to her reflection. Let's see how you handle someone who isn't afraid of you anymore. Tomorrow's meeting would be interesting indeed. The conference room buzzed with tension as executives filed in for the monthly review. I sat calmly at the table, my presentation ready, watching the door. When Caitlin entered, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floor, I kept my eyes on my laptop screen. "Let's begin," Sean, the CEO, announced from the head of the table. "I understand our new strategic initiatives team has something to present." I stood, smoothly connecting my laptop to the projector. "Yes, we've identified several opportunities for immediate improvement in our project management systems." "Excuse me," Caitlin's voice cut through the room like ice. "But who exactly are you?" I turned, meeting her eyes for the first time since my wedding day. "Nancy, project manager for strategic initiatives. I started yesterday." The color drained from her face. Behind her, Kylie nearly choked on her coffee. "Is there a problem, Caitlin?" Sean asked, frowning at her reaction. "No," she recovered quickly, though her knuckles were white around her pen. "Please continue." I launched into my presentation, highlighting the inefficiencies in their current system and proposing a streamlined alternative. "Our analysis shows we're losing approximately 20% of our productive hours to redundant processes." "That's impossible," Kylie interrupted. "Marketing has reviewed our workflow and—" Actually, I pulled up a detailed spreadsheet. "Here's the data from the last 6 months. You'll notice the pattern of delays, particularly in projects requiring multi-department approval." Sean leaned forward, studying the numbers. "This is concerning. How did we miss this?" "Because nobody wanted to challenge the status quo," I replied, careful to keep my tone professional. "But maintaining the status quo is costing us millions annually." "These numbers are manipulated," Caitlin snapped. "You've been here one day. How could you possibly—" "I've been analyzing publicly available company data for weeks as part of my interview preparation," I cut in smoothly. "And since starting, I've had my team verify every figure. Tom, would you like to speak to the methodology?" Tom stood, backing up my findings with specific examples from our department. I watched Caitlin's face darken as other team members joined in, each offering evidence of the systemic problems they'd faced. "Enough!" Caitlin finally burst out. "This is ridiculous. Sean, you can't seriously be considering a complete overhaul based on the recommendation of a highly qualified professional with an MBA and extensive experience in corporate restructuring?" Valerie supplied helpfully. "I vetted Nancy's credentials myself. They're impeccable." Sean raised his hand for silence. "Nancy, what's your proposed timeline for implementing these changes?" 3 months for the initial phase," I replied, clicking to the next slide. "We can begin with a pilot program in my department, then roll out the successful elements company-wide." "Without consulting marketing?" Kylie protested. "We need to consider brand implications." "Which is exactly why marketing will be involved from day one," I assured her with a smile. "In fact, I was hoping you'd personally oversee the communication strategy, Kylie. Your expertise would be invaluable." She blinked, caught off guard by the diplomatic approach. "I like it," Sean declared. "Caitlin, your department will need to fast-track the budget approval. I want this moving forward immediately." "But," Caitlin started. "Is there some reason you're hesitant to work with Nancy?" Sean asked pointedly. The room grew silent. Everyone watched Caitlin, waiting for her response. She forced a tight smile. "Not at all. I look forward to collaborating." After the meeting, Valerie caught up with me in the hallway. "That was masterful. But you know you've just painted a target on your back, right?" "Let them try," I replied, watching Caitlin and Kylie huddle together at the end of the hall, shooting glances my way. "I've got something they don't." "What's that?" "Nothing left to lose." I turned to her with a grim smile. "They already took everything from me once. This time, I'm the one calling the shots." Later that evening, as I was leaving the office, I found a note on my car windshield. The handwriting was unmistakably Eddie's. "Nancy, Mom told me you're working here now. We need to talk about this. Please call me." I crumpled the note and tossed it in a nearby trash can. As I did, I caught sight of Caitlin watching from her office window above. I gave her a small wave, enjoying how quickly she stepped back from view. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. "How was the first big meeting?" I typed back, "Phase 2 complete. They never saw me coming. The pieces were falling into place perfectly. Soon, Caitlin and Kylie would learn what it felt like to have their carefully constructed world turned upside down. And this time, I wouldn't be the one walking away in shame. "They're sabotaging us," Tom announced, bursting into my office 1 month into our project implementation. Marketing accidentally left our department off 3 crucial email chains, and Caitlin's team is sitting on our budget approval. I looked up from my computer, unsurprised. "Show me." He dropped a stack of emails on my desk. Rachel caught it. "We're being systematically excluded from project updates." "Perfect," I said, sorting through the evidence. "This is exactly what I was waiting for." Tom's eyes widened. "You wanted this to happen?" "I expected it. Kylie's not as clever as she thinks she is." I stood, gathering the papers. "Call an emergency team meeting. Conference room, 15 minutes." When the team assembled, I laid out our counter strategy. They think they're subtle, but they're leaving a paper trail. Every missed email, every delayed approval, we're documenting all of it. "But why?" Rachel asked. "What good does documentation do if they're still blocking us?" Before I could answer, Valerie appeared in the doorway. "Nancy, Sean wants to see you. Now." My team exchanged worried glances as I followed Valerie to the executive floor. In Sean's office, I found not only the CEO, but also Caitlin and Kylie, both wearing triumphant smiles. "Nancy," Sean gestured for me to sit, "we have concerns about your project's progress." "I'm aware," I replied calmly, pulling out my folder. In fact, I was about to request a meeting myself. "Our reports show significant delays," Caitlin interjected. "Perhaps you've taken on more than you can handle." Actually, I placed a comprehensive timeline on Sean's desk. Every delay can be traced back to either marketing's communication oversights or senior management's unusual approval delays. I've documented each instance. Kylie's smile faltered. "That's ridiculous. We've been fully cooperative." "Really?" I pulled out my phone, playing a voice message. "Hey Nancy, it's Jeff from IT, just confirming what you suspected. Those email chains were manually edited to remove your team's addresses. Need anything else? Let me know." The color drained from Kylie's face. "There's more," I continued, laying out document after document. Delayed approvals that typically take 2 days, suddenly taking 2 weeks. Meeting invites sent with incorrect times. Budget requests mysteriously lost in the system. Sean's expression darkened as he reviewed the evidence. "Caitlin, care to explain?" "This is absurd," Caitlin sputtered. "She's clearly fabricating." "Everything is verified by department heads and IT logs," I cut in. "But here's what's interesting. Despite these obstacles, my team has still managed to implement 40% of our proposed changes. And in departments where we've done so, efficiency has improved by 25%. I handed Sean another report. "These are the projected company-wide savings if we're allowed to complete the implementation without interference. The numbers speak for themselves." Sean studied the figures, then looked up at Caitlin and Kylie. "Both of you, out. I need to speak with Nancy alone." After they left, Sean leaned back in his chair. "You knew they'd try to sabotage you." "I counted on it," I admitted. "It's easier to expose poor leadership when they think they're winning." He nodded slowly. "There's history here, isn't there? Between you and the Burtons?" "Would it matter if there was?" "It matters if it affects this company." I met his gaze steadily. "The only thing affecting this company is their resistance to necessary change. My personal history is irrelevant to the fact that my strategy works." Sean was quiet for a moment. "From now on, your team reports directly to me. No more going through Caitlin or Kylie. And Nancy?" He smiled slightly. "Next time you set a trap this elegant, give me a heads up. I enjoy a good strategy." Later that evening, as I was packing up to leave, Eddie appeared in my doorway. "We need to talk." "No, we don't," I replied without looking up. "Nancy, please. Mom and Kylie came home furious today. What are you doing?" I finally faced him. "I'm doing my job. Extremely well, in fact. Your mother and sister's problems with that are their own issue." "This isn't healthy." He stepped closer. "This vendetta—" "Vendetta?" I laughed. "Eddie, I presented documented evidence of workplace sabotage. If they're failing, it's because they're more focused on fighting me than doing their jobs. I miss you, he said quietly. You missed me 3 months ago, too, right after letting your mother destroy our wedding. I picked up my bag. Please move. I have dinner plans. As I walked to the elevator, I heard Kylie's voice around the corner. We need to do something more drastic. She's making us look incompetent. No, Caitlin replied. We need to be smarter. Find something she's overlooked. Everyone has a weakness. I smiled to myself as the elevator arrived. They still didn't get it. My weakness had been caring what they thought of me. Now I only cared about winning. And I was just getting started. All hands on deck, I called out, striding into the office early Monday morning. The quarterly review is in 3 days, and we need to be perfect. My team gathered around, coffee cups in hand, looking both exhausted and excited. Over the past 2 months, we'd transformed from the company's forgotten department into its rising star. Tom, how's the data looking? He grinned, pulling up charts on his tablet. Better than projected. Efficiency up 35% across implemented areas. Cost savings already hitting 7 figures. Rachel? Employee satisfaction surveys show a 40% improvement in departments using our new system. Even marketing's numbers are up, though Kylie's trying to take credit for that. I was about to respond when Valerie burst in. Nancy, emergency meeting in Sean's office. Now. The urgency in her voice made my stomach tighten. In Sean's office, I found him looking grim, with Caitlin wearing a satisfied smirk. Close the door, Sean instructed. Nancy, we have a situation. Caitlin has brought some concerning information to my attention. Caitlin slid a folder across the desk. We've discovered irregularities in your department's reporting methods. I opened the folder, scanning the contents. These aren't our reports. This isn't even our data format. They were found on the company servers, Caitlin pressed. Under your department's files. Because someone put them there, I replied calmly, pulling out my phone. Check the metadata. These files were created last night at 11:43 p.m. Would you like to see the security footage of who was in the building at that time? Caitlin's smirk faltered. Furthermore, I continued, our actual reports are verified by 3 independent departments and backed up on separate servers. Tom? On cue, Tom appeared in the doorway with his laptop. Here's the real data, plus the security logs showing when and how the fake files were planted. Sean's expression hardened as he reviewed the evidence. Caitlin, this is a serious accusation you made. If these files were planted... Of course they weren't, she snapped. She's obviously covered her tracks. Actually, Tom interjected, the security footage shows Kylie accessing Nancy's department files last night. She's not as good with computers as she thinks, left quite a trail. Sean stood slowly. Caitlin, you're suspended pending an investigation. Please leave the building immediately. You can't. I can and I am. This kind of corporate sabotage is grounds for immediate termination. You're lucky I'm only suspending you, for now. After Caitlin stormed out, Sean turned to me. You knew they'd try something like this? I knew they were desperate. The quarterly review would have proven my system works better than theirs. They had to try to discredit me before then. He nodded thoughtfully. The review's been moved up, tomorrow morning. I want this resolved before the board meeting next week. That evening, I stayed late preparing. Around midnight, Eddie appeared at my door. Mom's devastated, he said without preamble. Your mother's facing the consequences of her own actions, I replied, not looking up. Again. This has gone far enough, Nancy. You've made your point. Finally, I met his gaze. Have I? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm just doing my job. Your mother and sister are the ones breaking company policies to attack me. Their family? No, Eddie, they're not. Not anymore. You made sure of that when you chose them over me. He stepped closer, his voice softening. I made a mistake. I miss you. We could start over. Mr. Burton? Tom appeared in the doorway, eyes narrowing at Eddie. Sorry to interrupt, but we need Nancy's sign-off on tomorrow's presentation. Of course, I stood, gathering my things. Eddie was just leaving. As Tom and I walked to the conference room, he glanced at me. You okay? Better than okay, I replied. Tomorrow, we show everyone exactly what this department can do. Back home that night, I received a text from Maria. Heard about the drama today. You sure you want to go through with this? I typed back. They tried to frame me for corporate fraud. Tomorrow, they learn what happens when you underestimate someone with nothing left to lose. My phone buzzed again. Valerie this time. Kylie's been crying in her office all afternoon. Board members are already asking questions. Whatever you've got planned for tomorrow, make it count. I smiled, reviewing my presentation one last time. Tomorrow would be more than a quarterly review. It would be the day Caitlin and Kylie learned that the woman they tried to humiliate at the altar had become the woman who could destroy their careers with a single presentation. And I was ready to deliver the performance of my life. The boardroom was packed. Every department head, board member, and senior executive sat waiting, including a visibly nervous Kylie and a stone-faced Caitlin, who'd been allowed to attend despite her suspension. Before we begin, Sean announced, I want to address yesterday's incident. We're investigating serious allegations of corporate sabotage. If I may, I interrupted smoothly, standing. I'd prefer to let today's results speak for themselves. Sean nodded, gesturing for me to continue. I connected my laptop to the projector, and the room fell silent. 3 months ago, I promised to revolutionize how this company operates. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what we've achieved. The first slide appeared, showing before and after metrics that made several board members lean forward in their seats. In departments using our new system, efficiency has increased by 35%. Cost savings have already exceeded $1 million. Employee satisfaction is up 40%. These numbers can't be real, Kylie protested weakly. Actually, Tom stood distributing folders. Every figure has been independently verified by 3 separate departments. You'll find their signatures on page 2. I clicked to the next slide. But perhaps the most interesting data comes from marketing. Kylie's head snapped up. Under the old system, marketing's project completion rate was 62%. Under our new system, it's 89%. Which means, Kylie, your department is performing better than ever, despite your attempts to sabotage our implementation. That's enough, Caitlin cut in. This is clearly a personal vendetta. Personal? I laughed. Let's talk about personal. Let's talk about how you've blocked budget approvals, excluded us from crucial meetings, and even planted false documents to discredit my team. And yet, we still succeeded. The board members were muttering among themselves now. I pressed on. But here's what's truly remarkable. Despite your best efforts to maintain the status quo, your own departments have proven my point. The numbers don't lie, and they certainly don't care about personal histories. I clicked to the final slide, revealing my masterstroke, a complete organizational restructuring plan. Given our success, I propose expanding our methodology company-wide. This would require some leadership changes. Specifically, I recommend dissolving the current Senior VP position and creating 2 new roles, Chief Innovation Officer and Chief Operations Officer. Caitlin's face went white. Her position, her power base, would vanish. You can't do this, she hissed. Actually, one of the board members spoke up. These results are extraordinary. I move to vote on the restructuring proposal immediately. Seconded, another board member added. Sean stood. All in favor? Hands rose around the room. Even Kylie's direct supervisor voted yes, while she sat there, shell-shocked. Motion carries, Sean announced. Nancy, I believe this makes you our new Chief Innovation Officer, effective immediately. This is insane, Caitlin burst out. You're all being manipulated. She planned this from the beginning. Yes, I said quietly, but my voice carried across the room. I did. I planned to come in here and do my job exceptionally well. I planned to implement changes that would benefit this company. I planned to let results speak louder than personal attacks or family connections. I turned to face her directly. You taught me that lesson, Caitlin. At my wedding, you showed me that nothing matters more than results. Well, here are my results. And unlike your accusations at my wedding, these are real, verified, and impossible to deny. The room fell silent. Even Caitlin seemed at a loss for words. If there's nothing else, I gathered my things. I have a department to run. Tom, Rachel, let's get started on the company-wide implementation plan. As we left the boardroom, Valerie caught up with us. That was brilliant. But you know this isn't over, right? Caitlin still has friends on the board. Let them come, I replied, watching Caitlin and Kylie huddle with their remaining allies. They can't fight success, and they can't fight the truth. Not anymore. Back in my office, I found a note on my desk, Eddie's handwriting. I understand now. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. You're incredible. I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. Through my window, I could see Caitlin in her office, frantically making calls, while Kylie sat at her desk, head in her hands. My phone buzzed. Maria. How did it go? I smiled, typing back. Remember how they said I wasn't good enough for their family? Turns out I was too good for their company. The view from my office had never looked better. But as I watched Caitlin's increasingly desperate movements across the way, I felt something unexpected. Not satisfaction, not triumph, but a strange sort of peace. I had won, yes. But the victory felt different than I'd imagined. It felt empty. The knock on my office door came late in the evening, long after most employees had gone home. I looked up to find Caitlin standing there, looking smaller somehow, without her usual air of superiority. May I come in? She asked quietly. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. She sat, smoothing her skirt in a nervous gesture I'd seen countless times before. The board accepted my resignation, she said. Effective immediately. I know, I got the email. Kylie's stepping down too. She's taking a position at another firm. Caitlin's hands twisted in her lap. I suppose you're happy now. Actually, I'm not. I closed my laptop, giving her my full attention. I thought I would be. I thought watching you lose everything would feel like justice, but it just feels sad. Why? Her voice cracked. You won. You destroyed us. No, Caitlin, you destroyed yourselves. All I did was excel at my job. She laughed bitterly. Is that what you tell yourself? It's the truth. I came here for revenge, yes, but somewhere along the way it stopped being about you. It became about proving something to myself. And what was that? That I am exactly what you accused me of being. Ambitious, driven, unstoppable. But those aren't bad things, Caitlin. They're what make me good at what I do. Silence fell between us. Through the window, the city lights twinkled like stars. I was wrong about you, she finally said. At the wedding, about everything. I know. Eddie was right to love you. We were wrong to interfere. I stood, walking to the window. You know what the worst part was? Not the humiliation, not the pain. It was realizing that you never even gave me a chance. You decided who I was before you knew me. And now? Now I realize I did the same thing to you. I saw you as this monster who ruined my life. But you're just a woman who thought she was protecting her family. I turned back to face her. We're not so different, really. Tears slid down her cheeks. I don't know how to fix this. Maybe we don't fix it. Maybe we just learn from it. I returned to my desk, pulling out a folder. I have a proposal for you. She wiped her eyes. A proposal? We're opening a new branch office. It needs someone with experience, someone who knows this industry inside and out. The position reports directly to me. Her eyes widened. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance, the same thing you never gave me. I slid the folder across the desk. Take it home. Think about it. Why would you do this? Because holding on to revenge is exhausting. Because you're good at what you do when you're not trying to destroy people. And because maybe it's time we both tried something new. She stood, clutching the folder. I don't deserve this. Probably not. But that's not why I'm doing it. As she reached the door, she paused. Nancy? Thank you. After she left, I called Maria. You did what? She exclaimed when I told her. After everything she did to you? I found something better than revenge, I replied. I found peace. My phone buzzed with another call. Eddie. This time I answered. I heard what you did for Mom, he said. That was incredible. It wasn't for her or for you. I know, he paused. I miss you, but I understand now why we couldn't work. I wasn't strong enough to stand up for what was right. No, you weren't, but maybe that's something you can learn too. After hanging up, I walked to the window again. In the reflection, I could see the empty office that used to be Caitlin's. Tomorrow, someone new would occupy that space. Tomorrow, everything would be different. Valerie appeared in my doorway. You're either crazy or brilliant, maybe both. I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is showing people who you really are, not who they thought you were. And who are you, Nancy? Someone who's finally free. I gathered my things, ready to head home. Someone who doesn't need revenge anymore. As I walked out of the building, I passed the church where my wedding should have happened. The pain that usually accompanied that sight was gone, replaced by something lighter, cleaner. I had come seeking revenge, but found something more valuable: self-discovery, strength, and the power to choose grace over vengeance. In the end, that was a victory sweeter than any revenge could have been. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Caitlin. I'll take the job. Thank you for seeing more in me than I saw in you. I smiled, typing back, welcome to the team. Let's build something better this time. And for the first time since that failed wedding day, I felt truly, completely whole.
As the scorching phoenix sun began to set in the twilight hours, Rachel carefully descended the stairs of their colonial-style home in the quiet residential neighborhood of Paradise Valley, cradling her heavily pregnant belly. "Rachel, let me help you," Michael rushed to her side. Tall and handsome in his Brooks Brothers suit, his expression always radiated kindness. "Thank you, but I'm fine. There's still over 2 weeks to go. I want to do what I can while I still can." As a pediatrician at Phoenix General Hospital, Rachel had attended many births. However, facing her own delivery, she felt conflicted between her clinical detachment as a doctor and her expectations as a mother-to-be. "Your mother called. We're invited to dinner again," Rachel said. Michael's expression clouded momentarily. Margaret was Michael's mother and the wife of the current head of the Thompson family, a prominent name in Phoenix society. For over 30 years, she had prided herself on being the perfect housewife, having given birth to all 3 of her children at home. "Mom's just concerned about you. But don't feel pressured," Michael said. Rachel knew better. Her mother-in-law's concern was becoming more like surveillance with each passing day. "Your mother doesn't really approve of my work or my hospital birth plans, does she?" Just then, the doorbell rang, and it was Michael's sister Patricia, a freelance graphic designer. She wore perfect makeup and expensive designer clothes, masking her emotional instability. "Oh, you're home for once," Patricia said, looking Rachel up and down. "By the way, did you see my design I posted on Instagram?" "I'm sorry. I've been working a lot of night shifts lately." "Of course. You're so busy with work. But family is important, isn't it?" There was a hint of sarcasm in her words. Michael watched his sister with concern. "Patricia, did you need something?" "No, Mom's just worried about Rachel's condition and the baby." On the surface, they appeared to be a harmonious family. However, the reality was that the threads of their complex emotions were quietly but surely beginning to unravel. Rachel sighed deeply, placing a hand on her belly. Her career, built through medical school on scholarships and her own determination, and her new family with the man she loved were precious treasures to her. However, as her due date approached, her mother-in-law's interference intensified, Her sister-in-law's attitude gradually changed, and Michael's business trips increased. That night, Rachel woke up feeling pain. Sharp cramping shot through her lower abdomen. Cold sweat trickled down her back. There were still more than 2 weeks until her due date. Opening her smartphone app, she began timing the contractions. As the pain continued at regular intervals, Rachel tried to maintain her composure as a pediatrician. Stay calm, breathe. Taking deep breaths, she called the hospital. A colleague on duty answered. Come in immediately. We'll be waiting in the emergency room. After hanging up, she immediately began searching for a taxi company's number. Michael was away in Los Angeles for an important project. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Rachel tensed at the unexpected visitor in the middle of the night. Looking through the peephole, she saw Margaret with perfect makeup and an agitated Patricia. Rachel, open the door. Her mother-in-law's voice carried more authority than usual. The scent of overpowering perfume wafted through the entrance. Mother. Patricia, at this hour. Michael contacted us. Said you weren't feeling well. Rachel was confused. She hadn't contacted Michael yet. So why? Yes, I think I'm in labor. I'm about to call a taxi. A taxi. Margaret's voice rose. Don't be ridiculous. How can you rely on strangers when you have family? Patricia hurried to the kitchen, seemingly searching for something. But I need to get to the hospital. Margaret laughed coldly. Our family has always given birth at home for generations. You don't need a hospital. Mother, I have risk factors for complications. For the baby's sake. Just then, Patricia returned from the kitchen. She was clutching car keys in her hand. And something else. Rachel's eyes widened. It was her father's keepsake lighter, which had been displayed on the entrance shelf. You don't need these keys if you can't understand family tradition. Patricia's eyes had an unsettling gleam. She walked toward the garden. Patricia, wait. Stop. But she didn't stop. In the garden, she took out the lighter. Under the moonlight, the metal cast an ominous glow. Nobody's going to be happy about this baby anyway. With Patricia's maniacal smile, the lighter's flame flickered. The keys began to melt. Fighting through intensifying contractions, Rachel desperately tried to call for help. But Margaret grabbed her arm. This is for your own good. We're preserving the Thompson family tradition. Under the moonlight, the car keys continued to burn in the garden while her mother-in-law's grip on Rachel's arm was unnaturally strong. Inside her womb, the baby moved anxiously. Soon after, 2 police cars arrived. Moments later, an ambulance followed, and her colleague Sophia rushed to the scene. Neighbors emerged from their homes one after another in their nightgowns and robes. Dr. Thompson, please leave everything to us. Today, we'll care for you not as Dr. Thompson, but as Rachel, our patient. Lying on the white stretcher, Rachel instinctively began giving a medical report. 36 weeks pregnant, first child. regular contractions at 7-minute intervals. Sophia gently held her hand. We know all that. Just focus on your breathing now. Tears welled up in Rachel's eyes at those words. Meanwhile, police officers were restraining an agitated Margaret and Patricia separately. Another officer was photographing the burnt remains of the car keys scattered on the lawn. With each flash, the bizarre scene in the sophisticated garden was illuminated. Those two have been acting strange lately, a neighbor in a designer nightgown told an officer. There were rumors about them forcing a home birth. I was worried about the young mother, so I kept the security camera footage, another resident stepped forward. The ambulance headed to Phoenix General Hospital by the shortest route. The EMT in the driver's seat was reporting the situation to the hospital over the radio while running the siren. In the hospital's emergency room, Dr. Sarah Johnson, the head of obstetrics, rushed over as the emergency doors opened. Her graying hair was tied back in a ponytail, and she wore scrubs over her surgical attire. She was Rachel's primary physician who knew her case well. Under her efficient directions, nurses in blue scrubs moved quickly. Monitors were set up, and 4 preparations began. Is the baby okay? Rachel's voice trembled. Stable for now, Dr. Johnson answered while checking the screen. But given the stress, we need to monitor closely. The rhythmic sound of the heart monitor echoed in the quiet treatment room. A nurse swiftly recorded vital signs while another gently wiped away Rachel's cold sweat. At 4 a.m., Michael burst into the hospital room, out of breath. His Brooks Brothers suit was wrinkled, his tie loosened. He had returned on an emergency flight from Los Angeles. Are you all right? The baby? I heard about Mom and Patricia. Michael. Tears fell from Rachel's eyes. I'm sorry, the car keys. Don't worry about that, Michael gripped her hand firmly. Leave Mom and my sister to the police. Let's just focus on you and the baby now. Suddenly, an alarm sounded in the room. The fetal heart rate was dropping. The medical team quickly assembled. The operating room staff began preparations, and tension filled the hallway. On the stretcher moving down the white corridor, Rachel said through held-back tears. Michael. I'm scared. Even though I'm a doctor, I'm so scared. Before being a doctor, you're a mother-to-be, aren't you? Michael smiled gently. I'll be right here with you. His words were filled with deep love. The next morning, soft daylight streamed into the private room in Phoenix General Hospital's maternity ward. By the window, Rachel held her newborn child. 2 hours after the emergency C-section, the tiny life was breathing peacefully on his mother's chest. A 6-pound boy. His slightly puffy eyes definitely resembled Michael's. You did great, Michael gently stroked Rachel's damp bangs. His presence in the operating room had been such a comfort. Just then, the hospital room door opened quietly. 2 police officers entered, followed by Margaret and Patricia. Their makeup was smeared, and their eyes were swollen from crying. Both had lost their earlier madness and now wore exhausted expressions. Visiting time is 5 minutes, the police officer quietly announced. Margaret stepped forward. Her gait was completely different from her usual dignified manner. Rachel, about last night. I'm truly sorry. Her voice was thin and trembling. Her expensive tweed suit now seemed oddly out of place. Patricia broke into sobs. What have I done? Silence enveloped the room. Only the regular beeping of monitors marked the passage of time. Why? Rachel's voice was tired but firm. Why did you do this? Margaret heaved a deep sigh. Something long-harbored showed in her eyes. We just wanted to protect the Thompson family's honor. Her voice broke. My mother was the same way. Raising children at home. Family before career. Rachel quietly interrupted. I value family too. But that doesn't mean denying someone else. The baby stirred slightly. Rachel instinctively drew the child closer to her chest. My brother, drifting away from us. Patricia's voice shook. He was always on my side. But since Rachel came. Michael's voice resonated low. I haven't drifted from anyone. I just created a new family. What's tradition? Is hurting family tradition? The air in the room froze. Our family's honor. Margaret managed to say. Michael's voice grew stern. Last night, you put a pregnant doctor in danger. Is that honor? Enough. Michael's voice was resolute. We'll walk separate paths from now on. Rachel silently watched her baby. The tiny life moved slightly again. We're filing charges with the police, Michael continued. And requesting a restraining order. This is non-negotiable. Michael's voice was calm. We have a new life to protect. Patricia nearly collapsed, and a police officer supported her. Margaret tried to look at the baby one last time, but Rachel instinctively held her child closer to her chest. That gesture said everything. Michael and Rachel quietly watched as the two left the room. The sound of the door closing seemed to announce the beginning of a new chapter. Are you okay? Michael placed his hand on Rachel's shoulder. Rachel answered while gazing at the baby. Yes. We have our new family now. And as if hearing those words, the baby let out a tiny yawn. Outside the window, the Arizona morning sun brightly illuminated the desert city. The beginning of a new day. And the moment of a new family's birth. The hospital room door opened again. This time, it was the attending physician and nurses. Shall we start preparing for discharge? The doctor cheerfully asked. Getting ready to go to your new home. Michael and Rachel exchanged glances and quietly nodded. Last night's nightmare was truly over. And now, a new future lay before them. Hey, Michael, Rachel looked up at her husband. Let's decide on a name for him. Yes, Michael smiled gently. The first important decision for our new family. The morning sun filled the hospital room as their new family story quietly began. 1 year later. In a quiet residential area, a 30-minute drive from Paradise Valley, stood a Spanish-style house. "James, look, Daddy's home," Rachel lifted her toddling son. 1-year-old James began to bounce excitedly at the sight of his father. Michael, still in his Brooks Brothers suit, rushed to his son. His work at the new construction company was busier than before, but he could now return home at the same time every day. Today was vaccination day, wasn't it? Michael stroked his son's head. "Did you cry?" "No, he was very brave," Rachel smiled. "A perfect role model for my patients." Rachel's reputation at Phoenix Children's Hospital continued to grow. Although balancing childcare and work wasn't easy, the hospital supported her with flexible working arrangements. On the living room table lay a letter that had arrived that day. It was from Margaret. After the incident, Margaret and Patricia had begun counseling. Facing social media backlash and community criticism, they ultimately decided to move to Scottsdale. Opening the letter, a photograph slipped out. It showed Patricia teaching at a children's art class where she volunteered. "Patricia has really changed," Rachel picked up the photo. Indeed, her sister-in-law's expression had softened. Weekly counseling sessions. Learning to handle anger. Finding a new way of life. Everything had gradually changed her. Moms even started an online petition on change.org, Michael said while reading the letter. For childcare support for working mothers. Unbelievable. Rachel smiled quietly. People can change. And sometimes, sad events can be the catalyst. Oh, Rachel noticed the last part of the letter. She's been asked to give a lecture at the local family support center. Margaret wanted to help families struggling with similar value conflicts by sharing her experience. "Hey, Michael," Rachel looked at her husband. "We made the right choice, didn't we?" Michael answered while holding their son. "Family doesn't have just one form. What's important is understanding and respecting each other." James closed his eyes contentedly against his father's chest. Just then, Rachel's smartphone rang. It was the hospital. "Hello, yes, I understand." When she hung up, Rachel's face was glowing. "What is it?" Michael asked. "The pregnancy test, it's positive." "Really?" Michael's voice jumped with joy. Rachel smiled and gently placed a hand on her stomach. "This time, I'm sure it's a girl." "A sister for James," Michael said while playing with his son. "How about that? You're going to be a big brother." The evening light enveloped the happy family. A pleasant summer breeze blew on the terrace. The birth of a new life. And another chapter in their family's story was about to begin. On the patio garden table lay next month's schedule. Work commitments. Childcare plans. And preparations for welcoming their new family member. "Hey," Rachel snuggled close to Michael. "Our family is wonderful, isn't it?" "Yes," Michael nodded. "It's our own unique way of being a family." The Arizona sunset cast a gentle light on their new home, seeming like a symbol of their hope-filled future. This was the path they had chosen. and the path they would continue to walk. Love and understanding. And accepting each other. Perhaps that's what true family bonds are all about. A new night was about to fall on the desert city. I closed my eyes and let out a deep sigh while mentally reviewing the preparation list for tomorrow's barbecue party. It was early morning in my kitchen in Cincinnati's upscale Hyde Park neighborhood, with the aroma of coffee wafting through the air. Our 15-year-old colonial-style house looked like a picture-perfect upper-middle-class residence from the street, complete with a well-maintained lawn, white picket fence, and a wooden deck stretching across the backyard. From the kitchen window, I could see the tree-lined avenue extending toward Eden Park. The gentle May morning sunlight illuminated the tulip bed. Emily should still be sleeping upstairs. "Mom, what time should I go to bed tonight?" I couldn't help but smile at the sudden voice behind me. My 7-year-old daughter Emily had apparently come downstairs without my noticing. She was wearing her light pink Disney princess pajamas, still rubbing her sleepy eyes. She was remarkably bright for a second grader and popular in her class. "Good morning, Emily. Since tomorrow is a special day, you should go to bed early tonight," I answered while gently stroking her messy blonde hair. Tomorrow is Sunday, a barbecue party with both grandmothers invited. Emily's eyes sparkled. "Will Daddy and Mommy and both grandmas all cook meat in the garden?" "Yes, we'll have steaks and hamburgers, all your favorites." As I spoke, I let out a small sigh inside. Sure, on the surface, it looked like an ideal family gathering. My husband James works at an investment bank. He's a typical workaholic who switches to work mode the instant his phone rings, even on holidays. I could hear him on the phone in his upstairs study even now. Working on holidays was the norm for him, and I always felt lonely seeing him prioritize work over family time. And tomorrow, my husband's mother Barbara and my mother Patricia would be meeting. Just thinking about it made my stomach heavy. Barbara lives nearby and frequently visits, always commenting on my housekeeping and parenting. "You should put more vegetables in Emily's lunch, or the way these bookshelves are arranged will collect dust." As a former successful real estate agent, she always demands perfection. My husband invariably takes his mother's side. "Mom's just worried about you," he says. But he doesn't understand that this only hurts me more. After 15 years of marriage, this issue remains unresolved. Meanwhile, my relationship with my mother Patricia has been strained since the inheritance issue 20 years ago. My father died suddenly in an accident, and while most of the inheritance went to my mother, her attitude changed completely afterward. Now she lives alone in a modest apartment. There's no trace left of her former self when she worked as a nurse, and whenever we meet, she seems somehow closed off. To think that these two would meet at the senior center's gardening class, it was like a nightmare for me. I honestly couldn't imagine how their relationship might be. "Hey Mom, I'll help." Emily's cheerful voice rescued me from my spiral of dark thoughts. My daughter, showing kindness beyond her 7 years, sometimes seems to sense her mother's feelings. As an elementary school teacher myself, I can see that Emily's thoughtfulness is special, even compared to my other students. Thank you, Emily. Would you like to help me choose the tablecloth first? Just as Emily nodded enthusiastically, I heard my husband's footsteps coming down from upstairs. He was probably preparing for another day of weekend work. He would head off to work, just like any other holiday. Tomorrow's barbecue will be fine. It has to be a peaceful Sunday afternoon. I tried to convince myself of this as I started preparing breakfast. The next day, our family was bustling around with barbecue party preparations from early morning. "Sarah, is the charcoal ready?" James called out from in front of the grill. My husband was dressed casually for once in a polo shirt and cargo pants. Surprisingly, he hadn't received any work calls. "Yes, it's right there. I bought ice too, so the drinks will stay plenty cold." As I answered, I checked the backyard through the kitchen window. Emily was playing on her new swing, her light blue dress with Disney's Ariel print swaying in the breeze. "Grandma Barbara's car," Emily suddenly shouted. Sure enough, my mother-in-law's silver Lexus was gliding into the parking space. She was 30 minutes earlier than usual. Barbara appeared carrying shopping bags in both hands. She wore a pastel blue dress with a pearl necklace. Her impeccable appearance hadn't changed. I brought coleslaw and my special marinade. And lemonade, Emily's favorite. As I watched her laying out dish after dish on the table, I felt conflicted. Barbara's cooking skills were undeniable. But sometimes, this perfectionism becomes overwhelming. "I want Grandma's lemonade." As Emily ran over, Barbara's face lit up with a broad smile. There was no doubting her love for her granddaughter. "Of course, dear, but after lunch." Just then, another car arrived. It was my mother's car. She emerged in her usual modest attire, carrying a large Tupperware container. "This is potato salad. Emily's favorite recipe." My mother's voice sounded somehow weak. When she met Barbara's eyes, they exchanged slight nods. At 2 in the afternoon, the barbecue was in full swing. James started grilling the meat. The savory smoke from the Angus beef steaks wafted across the entire garden. "Emily, how's school? You said you wanted to be a teacher, right?" When Barbara asked, Emily happily began talking about events at school. I listened while finishing the salad arrangement. "I want to be a teacher like Mommy." At Emily's words, I thought I saw my mother's expression cloud over slightly. She had once opposed my becoming a teacher, wanting me to pursue a more lucrative career. As the meal progressed, conversation gradually expanded. Centered around Emily, the atmosphere seemed pleasant on the surface. But the occasional glances exchanged between James and Barbara felt somehow unnatural. "Sarah, isn't this steak a bit undercooked?" My mother's words froze the atmosphere for a moment. "No, it's cooked just right." Barbara immediately countered. I pretended not to notice the tension flowing between them. That's when Emily took a bite of the potato salad. My mother's special recipe. But something was different. The color was slightly Mommy, my stomach. Suddenly, Emily's face contorted in pain. She stopped near the swing, clutching her stomach. As I tried to rush to her, a violent dizziness struck me. My vision began to distort. My feet grew unsteady. James's voice echoed from far away. I desperately tried to turn toward Emily, but my body wouldn't respond. As consciousness slipped away, I heard my husband and mother-in-law's conversation as if from a distant place. It will look like just an accident. Before I could understand the meaning of those words, my consciousness was completely enveloped in darkness. The last thing I saw was Emily collapsing onto the lawn. And my mother's hard expression. The Sunday afternoon that should have been peaceful had suddenly transformed into a nightmare. The smell of antiseptic, regular mechanical beeps, and faint footsteps in the hallway. These were the first things I noticed as consciousness began to return. My eyelids felt heavy. When I tried to move, I felt an 4 needle in my left hand. As my vision gradually became clearer, I realized I was in a private room at Cincinnati Memorial Hospital. Emily. When I called my daughter's name in a hoarse voice, a nurse approached. Mrs. Thompson, you're awake. I'll call the doctor. My daughter. Emily is resting in the next room. She hasn't regained consciousness yet, but her condition is stable. Those words brought slight relief. But the next moment, my final memory from the barbecue came flooding back. Those words. May I speak with you? The person who entered the room was a detective wearing a nameplate reading Laura Martinez. Sharp eyes gleamed within her composed demeanor. Are you able to discuss the incident? Incident. That word resonated heavily in my chest. Yes. I'm fine. I tried to sit up slightly. The nurse helped me. We have the test results, Detective Martinez continued, carefully choosing her words. There's evidence that poison was deliberately mixed into the food. At that moment, my body shook as if struck by an electric current. Poison. Mixed in. Deliberately. Each word approached with terrifying meaning. Specifically, it was a processed form of commercially available herbicide. While not a lethal dose, it was enough to potentially cause serious health damage. The detective continued her explanation. In my mind, the events of that Sunday played like a film reel. My mother's potato salad. The glances between my husband and mother-in-law. And those words. It will look like just an accident. Detective Martinez's eyes grew even sharper. We've already interviewed your husband and mother-in-law. However, there are several concerning points in their testimonies. Just then, hurried footsteps were heard from the hallway. Emily has woken up. A young nurse had come to report. I immediately tried to get up from the bed. You shouldn't move yet. Please let me see my daughter. The detective and nurse exchanged glances, and after a brief silence, they agreed to bring a wheelchair. In the next room, Emily lay in a hospital bed too large for her small frame. Though pale, her eyes were definitely open. When I grabbed my daughter's hand, Tears began to flow. "It's okay, you're safe now." Just then, there was a sound in the hallway. When I turned around, James and Barbara were standing there. Their expressions carried a tension I'd never seen before. "Sarah, we need to." The moment my husband tried to step forward, Detective Martinez stepped between us. "Mrs. Thompson, you and your daughter are currently under police protection." At those words, James's face froze. Barbara drew in a thin breath. Actually, an interesting video was recorded on the Johnson family's security camera next door. The detective quietly continued. "It shows your mother-in-law and husband having what appears to be a secret conversation in the backyard Sunday morning. And a small package that seems to have been received from Patricia." Barbara interrupted with a raised voice. "We didn't." The detective calmly continued. "The details of your life insurance policy were also very interesting." Just then, my mother entered, accompanied by a police officer. Her expression showed not a trace of remorse. "Patricia Wilson," Detective Martinez addressed her. "Important evidence was also found at your home." My mother stared at me. In her eyes was the same cold light I'd seen 20 years ago during the inheritance dispute. 2 more police officers entered the room. The situation was about to develop rapidly. Detective Martinez spoke in a quiet but firm tone. "There are still facts you need to know." Those words heavily foreshadowed the weight of the truth about to be revealed. The interrogation room at Cincinnati Police Headquarters was much smaller than I'd imagined. Gray walls, a metal table, and only recording equipment in the stark space. Next to Detective Martinez, I clasped my trembling hands in my lap. Across from me sat my husband James. His hair, usually well-groomed, was now disheveled. In just 48 hours of detention, he seemed to have aged years. "I'll tell everything." With those words, a long confession began. It wasn't planned from the beginning. James continued while staring at the water glass on the table. "Mother heard the story from Patricia. The truth about the inheritance 20 years ago." I caught my breath. Father's inheritance. That was where it all began. That accident. James carefully chose his words. It was apparently orchestrated by Patricia. Sarah's father, she. "Wait," I burst out. "Mother killed father." Detective Martinez quietly produced some documents. New photos from the accident scene 20 years ago have been discovered. And in the diary found in Patricia's apartment, there's an entry from the day before the accident describing how she tampered with her husband's car brakes. My head spun. Father's death wasn't an accident. Patricia then kept all the inheritance for herself. Sarah should have had rightful claim to it, James continued. Mother discovered this at the senior center. The interrogation room door opened, and Barbara, who had been questioned in another room, entered. Wearing the gray prison-issued clothing, she was unrecognizable from her usually elegant self. "It was my fault," Barbara's voice trembled. "When I met Patricia and learned her true nature, I was furious. To think that my precious son's wife was the daughter of such a person. So you sought revenge? Detective Martinez asked coolly. At first, I just wanted to corner Patricia. But she. Barbara's words faltered. She saw through our plan and turned it against us. The truth bloomed like an ugly flower. The meeting at the senior center wasn't coincidental. My mother had deliberately approached Barbara. Then skillfully hinted at the truth about my father's death. Using her knowledge as a former nurse, she even suggested methods for poison preparation. Creating a perfect alibi of the unfortunate accident of daughter and son-in-law. Everything had been my mother's meticulous plan. Patricia was manipulating you both from the start, Detective Martinez said. Among the evidence found in her apartment was this. The detective produced an old photograph. It was from my father's funeral 20 years ago. In it, my mother wore what appeared to be a satisfied expression. She had been planning the perfect revenge for years, the detective quietly continued. Using even her own daughter as a pawn. A cruel, but perfect plan. Meeting with my mother in detention. Through the clear acrylic barrier, I asked. Why, even Emily? Mother answered as if it were obvious. I wanted you to experience the pain of losing someone precious too. That cold voice seemed impossible to belong to the mother who had once wrapped me in love. For 20 years, I prepared little by little. Meeting Barbara, the gardening at the senior center, everything went according to plan. When I saw that arrogant woman looking down on my daughter, I knew. This family would surely dance to my tune. But why go so far? Your father tried to take everything from me. Mother's eyes took on a strange light. He asked for divorce and even demanded property division. But with his accidental death, I ended up getting everything instead. But that wasn't enough. You look just like him. At that moment, everything connected. Mother's abnormal obsession, the inheritance dispute, and this incident. It all began with father's death 20 years ago. The diary found in mother's apartment contained surprisingly detailed plans. Methods for herbicide preparation, plans to approach Barbara, and creating perfect alibis after eliminating me and Emily. A perfect plan utilizing her knowledge as a former nurse. There wasn't a shred of maternal love for me to be found. We have sufficient evidence, Detective Martinez announced. Patricia Wilson, James Thompson, and Barbara Thompson. All three will be charged with attempted murder and conspiracy. The fluorescent lights in the interrogation room cast our shadows on the floor. Those shadows seemed distorted, like ghosts of the past. Barbara continued her confession through tears. I just wanted to protect James. Before I knew it, we had become part of her plan. Mom. James spoke in a strained voice. I really did love Sarah. But I was misled by your words. Just then, a small voice came from the hallway. Mommy. Emily stood there, accompanied by a police officer. She had progressed from a wheelchair to using a cane, though she hadn't fully recovered. Still, her eyes shone with strength. Let's go home, I said while staying close to Emily. I knew the new life ahead wouldn't be easy. But for now, I would focus only on protecting my daughter before me. That was the only thing I could do. A year has passed. In Cincinnati's East Walnut Hills, a quiet residential area. My new house with Emily is much smaller than before. But it has a kitchen filled with morning sunlight and a small garden where we planted tulips. That's enough. Mom, look. The buds are swelling. Emily calls from the garden. She's now in 3rd grade. Since that day, we've had regular sessions with Kate, the psychotherapist. At first, there were many nights of crying, and I too spent sleepless nights. But slowly, surely, we're moving forward. You're right. Spring is almost here. I step into the garden with my work bag. It's still chilly on this late February morning. I've finally gotten used to teaching at my new school. Are you going to see Kate today after school? Yes, but it's the last time. She says you'll be fine now. My daughter thought for a moment before quietly nodding. Yesterday, the final sentencing was announced. Mother received 25 years for attempted murder and conspiracy, James got 10 years, and Barbara 8 years of actual prison time. The newspapers and TV called it the Cincinnati barbecue incident and gave it extensive coverage. When the sentence was read, Patricia's expression never changed in the courtroom. Perhaps everything had gone according to her plan since Father's death 20 years ago. Except for one miscalculation at the very end, Emily's recovery. Defendant Patricia Wilson, the judge's voice resonated. Your actions represent a cruel betrayal directed at your beloved family. In particular, involving your innocent granddaughter is absolutely unforgivable. Mother just smiled coldly. Meanwhile, James and Barbara showed deep remorse. Barbara especially shed tears every time she mentioned Emily's name. To think I hurt my granddaughter, what have I done? Their letters of apology remain unopened, stored away in the back of my bookshelf. Someday, when Emily is older and wants to read them of her own accord, that time may come. I'll wait until then. Sarah, good morning. Linda, our next-door neighbor, calls over the fence. I was initially anxious about neighborhood relationships when we moved here. But the people in this neighborhood have warmly welcomed us. Emily, are you ready for school? Yes. My daughter bounds out wearing her backpack. It's only recently that she's been able to run around energetically like before. As we get into the car, I remember. After the incident, my fellow teachers and students' parents provided surprisingly strong support. Hospital visits, help with moving, and most importantly, they watched over us warmly without ever placing blame. The day we planted the first tulips in our new garden's flower bed. When Emily gripped her small shovel and said, "Mom, this is our new garden, isn't it?" I felt tears welling up unexpectedly. Letters from prison arrive almost monthly. From James and Barbara, sincere apologies and regret. And from Mother, the same self-justification as always. But I'm not afraid anymore. Someday, you'll understand how I feel. That's what Mother said during our final meeting. But I know better. There's no need to understand. I just need to keep looking forward and living. We arrive at Emily's school. Have a good day. See you later. My daughter's smile reflects in the rearview mirror. The swing that used to be in our old backyard is gone now. But in this new place, we're creating new memories, slowly but surely. By the time the tulips bloom, I'm sure we'll be even stronger. Believing this, I begin driving toward the school where I teach. Though the sky is still slightly gray, beyond it stretches the unmistakable blue of spring. Our family lives in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, a town that transforms into a kaleidoscope of fall colors come autumn. Life here is incredibly convenient. The Eden Prairie Center, a large shopping mall, is just a 10-minute drive away, and we have Target and Starbucks right in the neighborhood. Our two-story colonial home boasts 4 bedrooms, and I particularly love the open-concept kitchen that lets me keep an eye on the children while doing housework. In this blessed environment, I spend my days working as a web designer from our living room. It's been 5 years since I went freelance. While working from home can sometimes be a lonely endeavor, I find it's the perfect arrangement for balancing childcare and career. With my brown hair pulled back in a ponytail, I chase deadlines day after day. Still, being able to see my family's smiles up close makes it all worthwhile. My husband Michael works as a project manager at a major IT company. His gentle nature and devotion to family make him my greatest support. On weekends, he cherishes his role as a father, playing with Legos alongside our 10-year-old son Jacob or accompanying him to soccer practice at the YMCA. Every Sunday, our family attends the local Presbyterian church, followed by our treasured tradition of brunch together. Jacob is in 4th grade. He's a bright and honest child, and his teacher praises him for contributing to the positive atmosphere in class. These days, he's particularly obsessed with Legos, spending hours in his room creating during weekends. While he's not too keen on his Wednesday piano lessons, he diligently continues attending, probably due to the same sense of responsibility he inherited from his father. Then there's Caitlin and her daughter Ashley, who are essential characters in this story. Caitlin is Michael's sister, living about 15 minutes away by car. Currently, her husband is away on a long-term business assignment, leaving her alone with 9-year-old Ashley. She's deeply immersed in social media communities, posting perfect mother-daughter moments on Instagram almost daily. To be honest, my relationship with Caitlin is complicated. After 7 years of marriage, while we maintain a facade of harmony, I often find myself exhausted by her perfectionist personality and somewhat condescending attitude toward me. During family events, she always takes charge, and my opinions are consistently pushed aside. Whether it's Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas cookie baking, everything must be done according to her instructions. Still, I've endured it because, well, she's my husband's sister. Her behavior has been particularly concerning lately. Perhaps she's emotionally unstable due to her husband's absence. But her overprotective attitude toward Ashley seems excessive. Overscheduling activities, constantly posting photos of her daughter on social media. Sometimes Michael mutters that it's like she's using her as a trophy to show off to other moms. On the other hand, the children's relationship is wonderful. Jacob and Ashley, being close in age, often play together on weekends. Jacob especially dotes on Ashley, who's a year younger, treating her like a little sister. Ashley, typically introverted and sensitive, naturally brightens up around Jacob. Even when she comes home tired from Girl Scout activities, she comes alive when playing with him. When her prized golden hair catches the sunlight, she looks just like a doll that stepped out of a storybook. On this Sunday afternoon, autumn sunlight streams through the large windows, gently illuminating our living room. The aroma of a slow cooker meal fills the air. With Thanksgiving season approaching, I've just finished preparing dinner using ingredients from Whole Foods. All that's left is the final presentation for my client. I sigh softly while facing my computer. Freelance work often means giving up weekends. Still, the sound of Jacob's Lego blocks from upstairs soothes my heart. I love these peaceful weekend afternoon moments. This color scheme still isn't quite right. As I'm absorbed in fine-tuning the web design, suddenly, an aggressive doorbell ring pierces the air. Following it, a voice that's somewhere between an angry shout and a scream echoes from the entrance. "Amy! Open up! Open this door right now!" I immediately recognized the voice's owner. It was Caitlin, sounding completely unlike her usual self, totally distraught. Rushing to the door, I run into Jacob coming down the stairs. "Mom, was that Aunt Caitlin?" "Jacob, please wait in your room." Though I hesitated at my son's worried expression, dealing with the door had to come first. Opening the door, I'm confronted by Caitlin's livid face. Her usually perfectly styled brown hair is disheveled, her flawless makeup beginning to smear. And behind her, oh my goodness! Ashley! My voice rises in shock. Caitlin's daughter Ashley is sobbing. And her precious golden hair, it's been cut unevenly. "Your son cut my daughter's hair." Caitlin's voice rings throughout the neighborhood. I hurriedly usher them inside. "Caitlin, please calm down. Let's talk about." "Calm down. Look what happened to Ashley's hair." Even after entering the living room, Caitlin's anger shows no signs of subsiding. Ashley trembles behind her mother. While my heart aches at her state, something feels off. "Jacob! Come down here." At Caitlin's voice, Jacob descends the stairs. His usually bright expression is clouded with anxiety and fear. "Aunt Caitlin! How could you do such a terrible thing?" What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb. You cut Ashley's hair." I could see the color drain from my son's face. "I didn't do it." "Liar. Ashley told me." As Caitlin becomes more aggressive, Jacob steps backward. I position myself in front of my son. "Caitlin, without any proof." That's when it happened. Caitlin pushed past me, and the sound of her slapping Jacob's cheek rang out. Jacob collapsed to the floor. My son's crying reaches my ears as I rush to his side. "I really didn't do it. I didn't." The son I'm holding is trembling. Anger wells up inside me. Caitlin, get out. I say this in a low voice. But Caitlin won't listen. Excuse me. My daughter is the victim here. I won't stand for someone who resorts to violence playing the victim. Just then, we hear the front door opening. I'm home, what's going on? Michael had returned. My husband, who had gone to work on this weekend due to a deadline, had come back earlier than planned. Sensing the situation, his expression immediately becomes stern. What happened here? Caitlin exploded again, starting to explain about Ashley's hair. Throughout this, Ashley kept her head down. Something seems off. How dare you hit our son without any proof? What's wrong with that? It's called discipline. Discipline? That's violence. I'll bill you for the salon, $5,000. And make him write an apology letter. The conversation had become impossible. My husband spoke with firmness. Please leave for today. We can talk again when everyone's calmer. Fine. We're done here. Ashley, we're leaving. Caitlin yanks Ashley's hand forcefully. At that moment, I catch Ashley's eye. There was something in her gaze, like she was trying to tell us something, pleading for help. The front door slams shut, and silence returns. But this silence felt like the calm before a storm. Jacob's cheek is red. Jacob, you really didn't do it, right? No. I absolutely didn't. I would never cut Ashley's hair. There's no lie in my son's eyes. He continued crying in my arms as I held him. Michael joined us, and the three of us stayed embracing for a long time. Monday morning in Minnesota arrives with a misty haze. Yesterday's events feel like a bad dream. We decided to keep Jacob home from school. Though the swelling in his cheek had subsided, the emotional wounds wouldn't heal so easily. He barely ate half his usual serving of pancakes at breakfast. It's okay, Mom. I want to go to school. My son's attempt to be brave only tightened the knot in my chest. Michael also chose to work from home today. His kindness in wanting to support our son as a family meant more than I can express. Around 10 a.m., the doorbell rang. Though I tensed up, traumatized by yesterday, the person standing there was Ashley. Ashley stood alone in her school uniform. She must have snuck away from school. Clutching a small backpack, she looked nervous. Auntie, can I talk to you? Her voice trembled. She was different from yesterday. Gone was the fearful expression in her mother's presence, now her eyes just sought help. Of course. But your mother. I came without telling Mom. I hesitated. Should I let my niece in without Caitlin's knowledge? But this child's eyes were crying out for something. My intuition pushed me forward. All right. Come in. Led to the living room, Ashley perched on the edge of the sofa. Her unevenly cut golden hair catches the morning light, shining poignantly. Would you like some tea and cookies? I got those macadamia nut ones you like from Whole Foods. I head to the kitchen while talking, trying to ease the tension. Pouring tea into my favorite bone china cup and arranging cookies on a plate, various possibilities race through my mind. Here you go. As I offer the tea, Ashley whispers a small, "Thank you." The gesture is almost adult-like. Where's Jacob? He's resting upstairs. After yesterday. I'm sorry. Her sudden apology leaves me speechless. Jacob didn't do anything wrong. Tears begin streaming down her cheeks. My intuition was right. Would you like to tell me about it? Take your time. Holding the mug with both hands, Ashley pauses before speaking in a small voice. Actually, I cut it myself. My hair. I catch my breath at this shocking confession. But I force myself to stay calm, knowing I shouldn't interrupt Ashley's story. Why? I'm being bullied at school. Her trembling voice continues the confession. Social media harassment from classmates. Being excluded from group activities. And most of all, Mom posts photos of me on Instagram every day. But I'm not just a doll. Tear-filled eyes look straight at me. Mom decided that long hair is your pride. But I couldn't take it anymore. As she speaks, emotions overflow and Ashley begins crying openly. I rush to embrace her. It's okay now. You're not alone. Just then, there's a sound from upstairs. Turning around, I see Jacob standing halfway up the stairs. Ashley looks up too. I'm sorry, it was my fault. It's okay. I'm fine. Jacob comes down the stairs and sits next to Ashley. The cousins look at each other, both crying. Their pure bond brings tears to my eyes as well. But why couldn't you talk to your mother about this? I gently ask once things have calmed down. Mom, she expects too much perfection. I have to act like the perfect daughter in front of her social media followers. Those words squeeze my heart. Caitlin, trapped by her reflection in the social media mirror, had become deaf to her daughter's silent cries. And her niece, nearly crushed under the weight of that distorted love. Ashley, you're such a brave girl. Being honest with your feelings is very difficult. But I don't know what to do now. We're here for you. How about starting with counseling together with your mom? I've heard Oak Point Elementary has a great counselor. Ashley gives a small nod. Just then, the doorbell rings. Ashley shrinks in fear, but it's just an Amazon delivery. We all share a small laugh. In that smile, I see a glimmer of hope. Are you hungry? I'll make you my special macaroni and cheese. Looking out the window while standing in the kitchen, I see the morning mist has cleared and sunlight is streaming in. The road ahead won't be smooth. But my niece's courage in facing the truth lights the way for our family's new beginning. Jacob, would you help set the table for Ashley? Sure. The children's bright voices ring out. As I start preparing lunch, I pray that this peaceful moment in our home will help heal her heart, even if just a little. I sat by the window at Starbucks near Eden Prairie Center. When I decided to call Caitlin here, Michael was worried. But this was something I had to do. I want to come too. I had no intention of refusing Ashley's request. Her courage was needed for this moment. The cafe door opens. Caitlin enters. Perfect makeup and outfit as usual. But she can't quite hide the dark circles under her eyes. She freezes for a moment when she spots us. Ashley. What about school? Sit down, Caitlin. We need to talk. At my voice, she narrows her eyes suspiciously but slowly takes a seat. First, look at this. I hand her my smartphone. Social media posts from Ashley's classmates. Ashley's too perfect, it's creepy. She's just her mom's doll. That hair must be extensions. This is what your daughter faces at school every day. Caitlin's expression freezes. Ashley, tell her. My niece nods slightly and begins speaking in a trembling voice. The details of the bullying, the pressure to meet her mother's expectations, and the real reason she cut her hair. Mom, I cut it myself. What? I couldn't pretend to be the perfect daughter anymore. I'm sorry. Tears roll down Caitlin's cheeks. Her hurried attempt to hide her smearing makeup reveals her confusion. That's a lie. Because we were happy, weren't we? Everyone on Instagram envied us. Was that real happiness? My question freezes the cafe's atmosphere. Are you saying I'm a bad mother? How dare you, a sister-in-law, interfere with my parenting? Caitlin, this isn't about good or bad parenting. Ashley is suffering. Mom, you protect me too much, it's suffocating. Ashley's words become the final drop. So I'm a bad mother. I tried so hard, caring about others' opinions, pretending to be the perfect mother on social media, but that was wrong. Everything was wrong. Caitlin's voice gradually rises. Other customers start turning to look. I tried so hard. A sudden shout. Then Caitlin collapses into tears. Since Ken left for his assignment, I had to be the perfect mother alone. My social media followers expected, but really. Ashley rushes to embrace her mother. Mom, you're not alone. These words burst Caitlin's dam. Her makeup runs, her hair disheveled. But it was also the sound of her mask falling away. I'm sorry. Ashley, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry too, Mom. As mother and daughter embrace and cry, even the cafe's other patrons' gazes soften. After a while, Caitlin raises her face. Her smeared makeup makes her look like a no mask. But her eyes hold a gentle light I've never seen before. Amy, for hitting Jacob. I'm truly sorry. Jacob is the one you should apologize to. Yes, you're right. I'll properly. Just then, the cafe door opens again. Michael enters with Jacob. I had contacted them earlier. Jacob. I'm so sorry for what I did. Caitlin kneels down to her nephew's eye level to apologize. Though Jacob hesitates briefly, he soon smiles. It's okay, Aunt Caitlin. I'm just glad Ashley's feeling better. The children's pure kindness brings tears to the adults' eyes. But what should we do now? To Caitlin's worried expression, I make a suggestion. The counselor at Oak Point Elementary has a great reputation. Why don't you try going together as mother and daughter? Yes. Ashley, will you go with me? Winter comes early in Minnesota. 6 months after that incident. Outside the window, large snowflakes fall silently. Standing in our kitchen, I occasionally listen to the laughter coming from the living room. It's Christmas Eve afternoon. Caitlin, Ashley, and Ken, who has finally returned from his long-term assignment, are enjoying making Christmas cookies with us. Mom, this cookie's shape got all wonky. At Ashley's voice, Caitlin smiles gently. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't you think it looks lovely, like a little star? 6 months ago, she would have surely said, do it over. The changes may be gradual, but they're definitely happening. Weekly counseling sessions. Though Caitlin was reluctant at first, now she makes appointments on her own initiative. Ms. Watson at Oak Point Elementary has patiently supported the mother-daughter relationship. Your sister-in-law is really trying, the counselor confided in me privately. It's wonderful to see how she's facing her perfectionist tendencies and working to change. Her social media posts have decreased to once or twice a week. Instead, she's spending more quality time with her daughter. When I heard they'd recently started taking yoga classes together, I found myself getting emotional. Ashley's changes have been remarkable too. She's settled well into her new environment at Oak Point Elementary. Her artistic talent has been recognized, and she recently won an Excellence Award at the school's art exhibition. Both Caitlin and Ken beamed with pride at the award ceremony. Her golden hair, now grown to shoulder length, is no longer a symbol of her mother's expectations. This length feels more like me, Ashley decided for herself. Amy, is the hot chocolate ready? Caitlin's voice calls from the living room. Gone is the commanding tone of before, replaced by a sisterly warmth. Yes, coming right now. As I carry the hot chocolate topped with plenty of marshmallows, I smile at the scene by the fireplace. Lego blocks spread across the floor. In the middle, Jacob and Ashley are intensely focused on their building project. Ken has joined them, and the three are consulting as they create together. Should we make this into a Christmas tree? Yes. But not just an ordinary one. Like a space station. The children's imagination takes flight. Beside them, Caitlin reaches for her smartphone, then puts it back down. I can see her consciously resisting the urge to post on social media. It's a lovely sight, I whisper. Yes. We don't need to capture it in photos, we can engrave it in our hearts. Caitlin's words catch my eye, and we share a smile. As evening approaches, Michael returns from work carrying a large paper bag. I have a surprise, he announces. Inside are ice skates for the whole family. How about we all go to Braemar Ice Arena tomorrow? The children cheer, and the adults join in agreement. Even if we fall, we can laugh together. Now that we've built such a relationship, I'm sure we'll be fine. As night falls, we begin preparing Christmas Eve dinner. We decided to spend it at our house this year. Amy, let me help you with the turkey. Caitlin comes into the kitchen. Before, she might have said, I'm better at this. Thank you. Could you handle the stuffing? We work side by side in the kitchen. Outside, snow continues to fall, and the fireplace flames flicker. Hey, Amy, thank you for forgiving me that day. That's what family's for. A brief exchange of words. But I could see tears glistening in both our eyes. In the living room, the children have completed their Lego Christmas tree. It's uneven and somewhat crooked. But its uniqueness makes it all the more precious. The Lego pieces shine in rainbow colors in the firelight. Everyone, dinner's ready. 8 chairs around the table. The aroma of turkey. Warm lighting. Snow outside the window. And most of all, the smiles of everyone here. It's not perfect. But within that imperfection lies true happiness. I take a deep breath. The feeling of gratitude expanding in my chest. And the anticipation for the days ahead. Everything is contained in this moment. Shall we say grace? At Michael's words, everyone joins hands, forming a circle just like we do at the Presbyterian Church. I think I feel Caitlin and Ashley's hands clasping each other a little tighter than before. Mother and daughter. Sisters. Cousins. Husband and wife. The bonds of family fill this room. Tomorrow will surely bring another new morning. No doubt new challenges await us there. But it's okay. Because on this winter night, we've found real hope.